So today's video is about how you can start soap making and what tools you will need. So, if you want to start a new hobby, it's always like, oh, do I have to get $300 to go to the store and buy a whole load of equipment and tools? For soap making, you don't have to. There are a few essential things you're going to need, and I'm going to talk about them in this video. And for me, when I started soap making, I could just reuse a lot of things that I already had in the house or upcycle things. So I didn't have to spend a single cent on equipment, tools, and stuff like that. I could go out, get oils, get lye, and start making soap. So let's get started. Now, the very first thing you have to consider is what kind of soap making do you want to do. Do you want to do cold process soap making, hot process, liquid soap making versus solid soap making? Well, today I'm talking about cold process soap making and making solid bars of soap. Why? Because I feel that's the easiest thing to start out with. Once you learn cold process soap making, you can go into hot process liquid soap making or making your own melt and pour soap from scratch. And the techniques sort of build down in difficulty, but the one with the least steps and least amount of things you need to get started, knowledge you need to have, is cold process soap making, besides melt and pour. Right, so cold process soap making uses lye, sodium hydroxide. And sodium hydroxide, as you can see here, must be very carefully stored, wrapped, and you should definitely read all about the dangers and the safety procedures you'll need to follow. It's not impossible, it just needs to be treated with respect because it is a caustic chemical. It's highly alkali, can cause damage. You should never leave your soap making things around. It should be locked if your kids or pets around. And if you should not be making soap around children or pets. And there are a lot of safety things you need to consider, as well as safety equipment. So bear that in mind. In order to work safely with soap, it's recommended to have goggles. Goggles protect your eyes because if the lye splashes out, it could get to your eye and you could damage your eyes, and that's terrible. So be sure to have some goggles on hand for when you're working with lye. Be sure to have gloves on hand. Now, I'm using latex gloves. I really should be using a long rubber gloves like what they use for dishwashing. Heavy duty gloves, that's the best thing. And finally, you will need vinegar. Why? Because lye is alkali and vinegar is an acid, so it can neutralize alkali. If you get any spills, splashes, you can clean your equipment also with vinegar. And I just get cheap white vinegar. It's synthetic vinegar, Tesco, and I get it in bulk. You probably might have some of this around your house already. It's just a really good natural cleaning agent. It's great for cleaning bathrooms and stuff. It's also great for cleaning up after soap making. But be warned, do not put lye on your skin. Do not put vinegar on your skin if you have gotten lye on it. Why? Because you know how vinegar and acid and alkali react to each other. You're gonna get a reaction right on your skin. If you get a splash, rinse it off. Rinse it all away first. That's what I would say. And then maybe you could use vinegar or something. But do check out on safety procedures. Do not put vinegar directly on lye burns or splashes on your skin. On the counter, it's a different thing. You can use vinegar. It can neutralize alkali. All right. Now, let's get into the two big budget items that you probably will need. Let's start with a stick blender. So for cold process, hot process, any kind of soap making, even liquid soap making, you will need a stick blender. I've made soap without it. It is a headache. It is a torture, a misery. It's stressful. It's possible, but it's not good for a beginner to start out and be like, oh, I have to, try and actually make this sonification happen. To worry about the soap. It's just really stressful. So I recommend using and getting a stick blender that you will use only for soap making. And if you have an old one around the house, just use the old one for soap making. Don't get a brand new one for food. So this is what I did. You can see this is really old. It's more than 10 years old, but it's still working, so I use it. If you, like I said, if you already have it, then go ahead and dedicate it to soap making for the sacred purpose of soap making. And if you don't, you probably should go out and get it. Like it's essential. But what's even more essential that you really need is an electronic weighing scale. Never ever try to make soap from a volume-based recipe, that means measuring cups or milliliters or something. No, it doesn't work. It's not accurate. Get an electronic weighing scale that can measure up to milligrams. That's the best possible thing. And if you already have one, that's great. I had one from before because I use it in baking. It's the best baking tool. Saves a lot of time. Baking by weight is amazing. And yeah, so if you already have one, great, just use it for soap making. It's not like a stick blender. It doesn't have to be for the sacred purpose of soap making. Now, you can use it for loads of other things. Just make sure it's accurate and that it's an electronic weighing scale, not one of those like balancing type ones or whatever else. You want it to be accurate. Yes. Now, if I had to choose between either of these, I would choose this weighing scale. Why? Because from experience, I actually can make soap without the stick blender. It just takes a lot of time and a lot of stirring and a lot of stress, but not without the weighing scale. Absolutely not. No way. Do not make soap without measuring everything on an electronic weighing scale. It's just not worth your time, not safe, etc. Okay, now let's get into the tools that you will need for actually making the soap. Now there are a few basic steps. These are the things that I use, and they cost me nothing. They are all upcycled. They are old kitchen stuff that I'm no longer using for food, so I just transferred them over and use them for soap making. Cost me nothing. I like not having to spend money unnecessarily. So the first thing you need to do when making soap is measure your lye. So I just use this science beaker. It's Pyrex, it's tempered. I just use it to measure the dry lye. You can use glass, you can use plastic, but never ever use aluminum. No. Aluminum or anything that's mixed with different kinds of metals, these things, the lye is going to react to it. Lye is going to burn through and eat up the aluminum, and then you're going to have a caustic substance over your counters, your floor, whatever it is that you're not even supposed to touch. It's going to be everywhere. So please do not ever use aluminum in soap making. You can use plastic, preferably plastic. The reason why is that glass could crack, and then you'll have the same problem as aluminum. You'll have stuff all over the counter, and you're gonna need. It's a lot of cleaning, a lot of danger. It could ruin the varnish and wooden stuff. So please do not use anything that will break or will dissolve. Now, you will also need something with which to, you've measured your lye, you're going to mix it, pour it into a liquid, water, or whatever else you're using. I use a stainless steel pot, and I know it's stainless steel. I tested it. It has lasted me a long time, but please don't just take any pot and use it. Why? Because it could be aluminum, and then you're in big trouble. Preferably, you can use something like this, a plastic container that's number 5. You see that triangle? It's number 5 and above, and that means that it can withstand heat. So you can mix your lye water in a good solid plastic container that's number 5 and above. Usually number 5 is the common one. But I do mine in this. It works for me. I'm very sure that it's 100% stainless steel, It's good, like an old kitchen pot. I tested it. It's safe. Don't try if you don't know, because it has happened to soap makers. You'll see horror stories, like pictures of huge pots with the bottom burned out of it and lye just everywhere. Plastic is the safest thing. Glass, even good tempered glass, not really recommended because of the heat. When you mix lime to butter, it generates a lot of heat. It's really, really, really hot. It's a chemical reaction, and glass could crack with sudden changes in heat. So glass is not the best thing for mixing lye and liquid, for making your lye water solution. Now for the actual making of the soap, I use this. This came free with biscuits. Again, it is number 5 in the triangle plastic thing, and it's recycled. Obviously it's broken. I can't use it for anything else. You will need something big enough to mix substantial amount of oils in. This is perfect for me. You might need something bigger if you're making, like, I don't know, 100 pounds of soap at a time or something like that. But for me, this is what works. Yes. Now, you're also going to need some things with which to mix your soap. I just use an old disposable plastic spoon, an old stainless steel spoon that we were going to throw away. Again, I tested it. I'm very, very sure it's stainless steel. I've used it many times, no problem. So I probably wouldn't recommend that you do that. Just use a plastic spoon. And I have an old plastic spatula. Now this is perfect. It's like very flat, so I can scrape very easily. I love this spatula. A spatula is very useful because when you're pouring soap out of your mold, you're going to need to scrape that mold clean so that none of the soap's left. If you're using a spoon, it's going to take you a long time, and there will probably be soap left in your container, which will be such a waste, such a pity. It's a waste. So spatula was really great. This was on sale, and this is like, I used to use it for baking, and then it got a little bit like old and cracked, so I moved it to soap making. You can use old stuff for soap making. If you have an old rubber or silicone spatula that you used to use for baking, cooking, you can move it over to soap making, and only for that. Do not use it back for cooking afterwards. Alright, finally let's talk about molds. My favorite mold is actually just a simple Tetra Pak milk carton. You might not get that in your country, but I just love this because it's square. It makes perfectly square bars of soap. They have a really minimalist feel to it, so I love this. It costs nothing. I love things that cost nothing, and I use it to make soap, and I have an endless supply of these. So lots of soap. I can only use them once for soap, but again, I have an endless supply of them, so I just keep making soap in them. And something I did for fun today was to make a little insert and a divider so that I can make like two-toned soap, which I'm going to try to make in my next video. Now, the other thing you can get are silicone molds. They're really popular with soap makers. I think you can get them very cheaply, and they cost very little. They're very affordable. These, I'm pretty sure, are not oven safe. They're not like the high-grade silicone that can withstand heat, but it's okay for soap making. I'm not going to eat, this. It's not going to go in the oven or anything, so that's okay. So, if you're going to be using silicone for cooking, be sure to get really good quality silicone that's not going to have a strange smell when you bake with it, or warp or something, or leach poisons into your food. For soap, it's okay. I have different shapes and sizes, some for sample soaps. And again, never use any metal baking tray for soap making. Never ever. This is aluminum. Do not use it. Do not even go near soap with it. It should be far away. Do not even think about putting soap into these. It will just dissolve into a gooey mess, and then you will have no mold no tray, and no soap. Don't use non-stick, don't use aluminum, don't use any kind of metal baking container. Stick to either plastic or silicone, or maybe like an old cardboard box or lined with plastic bags, I guess, or a milk carton. No metal anywhere near. I'm going to put this away because I'm not using it to make soap. No, absolutely not. Okay, so these are the tools that you're going to need. They're kind of scattered all over my counter. I hope I've given it a good, decent enough explanation of what you will need to get started soap making. And yeah, these are the tools you need. You may need like little extra plastic containers. Like I have this one here, just a plastic spoon and an old recycled plastic container, and I'm using it to mix my activated charcoal and leaf powder, and so you need little things like that. So if you have things lying around the house, plastic bowls, tubs that are number 5 and above, then you can use them for soap making. Yeah. So in the next part of this video, I will be making a special two-toned soap with rosemary essential oil. So stay tuned for that in part 2. Bye!